Welcome to the Introduction to Media Technology exam preparation in Adobe Photoshop. The following file is in the discussion board, topic 15.2, practice exam. Let's get started. You have 120 minutes to complete this task and submit your work. One zipped file with 6 file types. All files must be compressed into one file submission, and the submission file should be labeled your name _ID _ practice 2. Part 1, 15 points in total. Step 1, you open the provided image in Photoshop. Before I'm going to read further, I'm just going to go to my provided image, this one, right? And to open it up in Photoshop without anything else, I right click, open with Photoshop. That is it. And now the question is, adjust the image to be 72 pixels per inch, but change the width to 1800 instead of 1920, the width. The first step is to go to image, and in the image size, I can change the settings. Right now, you can see it's not 72, it's 150. This should be 72. But if I do 72, you see, it transforms the width and the height accordingly as well. I don't want that. If I want to make sure that it is here, the width should be 1800 instead of 1920. If I go to 1800, that's it. 1800 times 1200, it adjusted it, 72. And if I now click OK, it's done. Step 1 is complete. Okay? Now, step number 2, create an AI-generated sun in the top right corner of the image. Okay. The top right corner needs to be selected first. I'm going to choose my lasso tool here. I'm just going to go and select the top right along these lines. I have a top right corner. And coming with that is now my context window generative fill. And I just type in sun. And it would already create an AI generated layer of a sun on top of that. There is a sun. Of course, I can change the style of the sun. Maybe this sun is nice, or maybe actually this sun is more realistic to fulfill the tasks. This is number 2 done. Number 3, duplicate the background layer. Title the new layer figure remove. We duplicate the background layer. We see here it's the background. Duplicating it is by going to right click and say duplicate layer, and then you have the duplicate layer. I'm just going to call it figure remove. And say OK. Now you have 2 layers here. That's it. Finished. Number 4, on the figure remove, cleanly remove the person from the photograph. So on this layer, we cleanly remove the person. Of course, you can use different selection tools. The quick selection tool, that's a better tool to do that. Yeah. If I'm going to go to add to selection here, I'm going to make my circle a bit bigger. Then, of course, I can do something like that. But the problem here is I have to be nitty-gritty. For me, I deselect everything. I just go to object selection tool. Once I click on that, it would automatically just identify my object. Now, I just need to do some touch-ups. Now I can change and add to the selection by just going, if I want to be really precise, to add a little bit of his legs here, to want to make sure that this is selected. His arms are selected. Yeah, this is all good. See, I want to make sure that all the head is selected equally. See, even this. Now it's a bit better. And it's not a high-res picture, but it's at least better than anything. And if I go back to 0, now what do I have to do to remove the object? Generate fill. Generate. And it's done. Beautiful. It's finished. And I can even choose between the different options. I think option number 2 is amazing. I just leave it out like that. No figure visible. That's done. Reduce the opacity on the sun layer to 60%. If we're going to go back to the sun layer now here, this is the sun layer. The opacity to be reduced to 60. I just click on 60 and that's it. Apply the blending mode, multiply to the sun layer. Okay, the blending mode here is normal. I just go to multiply, and it on purpose looks like that. It's fine. It's part of the exam. The next thing, select the sky only and apply a brightness contrast adjustment layer. Okay, now selecting the sky only. How can I select the sky only? I cannot do it here. I have to go to figure remove, because that's the top layer. I have to select that layer which is on top of the background, and now go back to my selection tool, object selection, and there you go. There is my sky. I just release the mouse, and of course I can always go back to my quick selection tool, actually items which are not the sky. This is all not sky, this is all mountain. I'm clicking the minus here, yeah, on this one, or basically Control on my keyboard, to just want to make sure that I selected everything which is the sky. So here's again mountain, mountain, mountain. More or less it's okay. Okay, now there is a very cool tool in Photoshop where if I want to replace the sky, I can do that if you go to Image, Edit, Sky Replacement. And in Sky Replacement, look at that. I can immediately change the sky to any other sky I want, other clouds. Yeah, I can add a complete dramatic backdrop if I wanted to. I can reduce the brightness. I can really very, very quickly do that. But that's not the question. The question now is to just apply a brightness contrast adjustment layer. You can do it both ways. To apply an adjustment layer, you can either go to down here and click brightness contrast. I could do it like that. The other cleaner way to do it for me is like go to layer, adjustment layer, and brightness contrast. Here I have a sub menu, and I would always use the clipping mask to just want to make sure that this applies to the layer underneath. But the same thing, 80 in the brightness and minus 50 on the contrast. Set the brightness to 80 and the contrast to minus 50. Done. You can see before and after, it looks a little bit different now. Good. Finally, we're done. Save the file in two ways. Save as a file that is universal and can be opened by any computer. What is a file which can be opened by any computer? A JPEG, and the file size has to be below 170 kilobytes. That means if I'm going to export file save as, that doesn't yield the result I want. I need to use the export dialog, and here I need to use the export as dialog, for example. And the export as dialog gives me a more detailed overview. It's now saving it as a format JPEG, and I can see right now is 912 kilobytes. The file has to be below 170. In order for me to make this below, I need to reduce the quality. Number one quality JPEG now is 147 kilobyte. I say export, and I've saved this file on my desktop now and call it 1A. Done. Save the file, yeah. Title the file 1A. Finished. Now the part B is save as a file that retains Photoshop layers and edits for future editing. Title the file 1B. That would be save it as a Photoshop file. I go to File, Save As on the desktop 1B. And now it's a Photoshop format. And if I click on Save and say OK, it's done and it's saved as Photoshop. Finished.